Captain Li Wu-jin stood on the bridge of the Stellar Dawn, watching the stars drift past through the main viewport. His ship was not the biggest in the Terran colonial fleet, but it was fast and reliable. For 3 months now they had been mapping the outer systems, looking for planets that humans could one day call home. "Captain, we are picking up something strange," said Chief Science Officer Park Hye-jin from her station. She was young, but very smart, and Lee trusted her completely. Her fingers moved quickly across her control panel as data filled her screens. Lee walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "Energy readings from Kepler 442c. That is the small moon orbiting the gas giant in this system. According to our records, it should be dead. No atmosphere, no life, nothing interesting at all." Security Chief Kim Dae-ho looked up from his weapons. Console. He was a big man with careful eyes who never missed anything dangerous. Could be equipment failure. These old sensors act up sometimes. Park Hye-jin shook her head. "I ran 3 different scans. The readings are real. There is definitely some kind of power source down there. It is weak but steady." Lee studied the data on her screen. The moon looked like a gray rock floating in space. It was small, maybe half the size of Earth's moon. The official survey from 20 years ago had listed it as completely barren. "Medical Officer Choi Sora, please report to the bridge," Lee said into his communicator. Dr. Choi arrived a few minutes later. She was a kind woman who cared deeply about helping people. Her medical bag was always ready, and she never complained about long missions far from home. "What do you need, Captain?" she asked. "We might have found something on that moon. If there are people down there, we will need you ready." Dr. Choi nodded. "My equipment is prepared. But Captain, how could anyone survive on a dead moon?" That was the question Lee could not answer. He looked at his crew, all good people who had signed up to explore the unknown parts of space. They had found empty planets before, old ruins, even some strange alien artifacts. But they had never found humans where humans should not be able to live. "Take us down, pilot," Lee ordered. "Nice and slow. If someone is alive down there, we do not want to scare them." The stellar dawn dropped through the thin atmosphere of the moon. Through the viewport, Lee could see the surface was covered in gray dust and sharp rocks. There were no trees, no water, no signs of life at all. The temperature outside was 40 degrees below freezing, and the air was too thin to breathe. "Energy. Source is coming from that crater over there," Park Hye-jin said, pointing to a dark hole in the ground about 2 kilometers away. As they got closer, Lee could see something that made his heart beat faster. There were small structures near the crater. They looked like shelters made from metal pieces and rock. Someone had built them by hand. "Landing zone looks clear," the pilot reported. "But Captain, the surface is very rough. We will need to be careful." "Set us down as close as you can," Lee said. "Everyone get your environment suits ready. If there are people down there, they have been waiting a long time for help." 20 minutes later, the 4 crew members stepped out of their ship onto the surface of the moon. Their boots crunched on the frozen ground. Lee could hear his own breathing inside his helmet as they walked toward the strange shelters. "Look at this," Kim Dae-ho said, kneeling beside one of the structures. "This metal came from a spaceship. See these burn marks? This was part of a hull that went through atmospheric entry." Dr. Choi was examining some tools left outside one of the shelters. "These are very basic. Whoever made them was trying to survive with almost nothing." As they got closer to the largest shelter, Park Hye-jin stopped suddenly. "Captain, I am reading a life sign. One person, very small, maybe a child." Lee felt his stomach tighten. A child alone on this dead moon? How was that possible? They walked around the shelter and found themselves in a small area that had been cleared of rocks. In the center was a pile of stones arranged in a rectangle. It looked like a grave. Sitting beside the grave was a small boy. He looked to be about 8 years old, wearing clothes that were too big for him and patched with different pieces of fabric. His dark hair was long and messy. He sat very still, like he had been waiting there for a long time. When he saw the 4 humans in their spacesuits, he did not run or seem afraid. He just looked up at them with eyes that seemed much older than his face. "Hello," the boy said in perfect Terran standard language. His voice was quiet, but clear. Dr. Choi was the first to move. She knelt down beside him, her medical training taking over. "Hello, little one. What is your name?" "Taimin," the boy answered. "Are you from Earth?" "We are from a Earth ship, yes," Lee said, removing his helmet, now that he could see the boy was breathing the thin air without any help. "Taimin, how long have you been here alone?" The boy looked down at the grave beside him. "Mom and Dad went away 2 months ago. Before that, the others went away too. Now it is just me." Dr. Choi was running her medical scanner over the boy. Her face showed surprise and concern. "Captain, his vital signs are impossible. He should not be able to survive in this environment. The cold alone should have killed him." Taimin looked up at Dr. Choi with those 2 old eyes. Then he asked the question that would change everything. "Has Mom stopped crying yet?" The 4 adults looked at each other. Lee felt something cold that had nothing to do with the moon's temperature. "What do you mean, Taimin?" Dr. Choi asked gently. "Mom cried every day. Her tears would freeze on her face. She cried because of what happened to Jin-ho and Subin and the other kids. She cried because Dad was sick. She cried because we could never go home." Taimin pointed to the grave. "Before she went away, she told me someone would come. She said when they came, maybe she could stop crying." Park Hye-jin was scanning the area with her equipment. "Captain, I am finding more graves, at least 6 of them, and the energy readings are coming from underground. There is definitely technology down there." Lee knelt down to be at eye level with Taimin. "Son, we are going to help you. But we need to understand what happened here. Can you tell us how you and your family came to this moon?" Taimin nodded slowly. "Dad said we came here for important work, but something went wrong. The ship broke, people got sick, and then the changes started happening." "What changes?" Dr. Choi asked. Taimin held up his small hand. Even in the dim light, they could see old scars across his palm. "The changes that made some of us different. The changes that saved me but hurt the others." Kim Dae-ho was checking his security readings. "Captain, we need to get the boy back to the ship, and we need to investigate that underground facility. Something tells me we just found something much bigger than a simple rescue mission." Lee looked at the small boy sitting beside his parents' grave on a dead moon. A boy who could somehow survive in an environment that should have killed him long ago. A boy who spoke of changes and tears that froze. "Come on, Taimin," Lee said, extending his hand. "Let us take you somewhere warm, and maybe we can help your mom stop crying." Taimin took his hand and stood up. As they walked back toward the stellar dawn, Lee could not shake the feeling that they had just discovered something that would change everything they thought they knew about human survival, and the lengths parents would go to save their children. Back on the stellar dawn, Dr. Choi Sora wrapped a warm blanket around Taimin's shoulders. The boy sat quietly in the medical bay, his small hands holding a cup of hot soup. He had not spoken much during the walk back to the ship, but his eyes never stopped watching everything around him. "The ship is very nice," Taimin said softly. "Much better than our shelter." "How long were you living in that shelter?" Dr. Choi asked while checking her medical readings. "Since I was very small. Dad built it after our ship crashed. He said it would keep us safe from the cold and the bad sounds." Captain Lee sat down across from the boy. "Taimin, can you tell us about your parents? What were their names?" "Mom was Dr. Yoon Jin-ae. She was very smart and knew about plants and animals. Dad was engineer Bae Hyun-woo. He could fix anything that was broken." Taimin's voice became quieter. "They loved me very much." Park Hye-jin looked up from her data station. "Captain, I searched our records. There is no mention of any Dr. Yoon Jin-ae or engineer Bae Hyun-woo in the colonial databases. Maybe they were on a secret mission," Kim Dae-ho suggested. "That would explain why there are no records." Taimin nodded. "Dad said the work was very important, but also very dangerous. He said we could never tell anyone about it, even after we got home." Dr. Choi was studying her medical scanner with a confused expression. "Captain, these readings are impossible. This child's bone density is 3 times normal human levels. His muscle tissue shows signs of enhanced strength, and his brain activity, suggests he processes information much faster than any human should be able to. What does that mean? Lee asked. It means Taiman is not entirely human anymore. Someone or something has changed him at a genetic level. Taiman looked up from his soup. The changes happened to all of us kids, but I was the only one who got better. The others got sick and went away. What others? Dr. Choi asked gently. Taiman's eyes became sad. Jinho was my best friend. He was 10 years old and very funny. Subin was 7 like me, and she always shared her food. There were 4 more kids too. We all lived together and played together. What happened to them? Lee asked. After the changes started, they began to hurt. Jinho could not eat anymore. Subin's bones became too heavy for her to walk. The others got fevers that would not go away. Taiman put down his cup. Mom cried every time one of them went away. She said it was not fair that only I got to stay. Park Hyejin was working at her computer. I am detecting more life signs underground near the crash site. Very faint, but definitely there. Maybe some of the adults survived, Kim Dae-ho said. Taiman shook his head. No. The grown-ups went away first. They got sick faster than us kids. Only Mom and Dad lasted long enough to take care of me. Dr. Choi sat down beside the boy. Taiman, I need to ask you some difficult questions. Can you tell me exactly what these changes were? The boy thought for a moment. At first, we all got very sick. High fevers, terrible pain in our bones. Mom and Dad gave us medicine, but it did not help much. Then slowly, some of us started to get stronger instead of weaker. Stronger how? Lee asked. I could lift heavy rocks that used to be too big for me. I could run for hours without getting tired. When I cut myself, the wounds would heal very fast. Taiman rolled up his sleeve to show them his arm. See this scar? I fell on sharp metal 2 weeks ago. It should have needed many stitches, but it closed by itself in 3 days. Dr. Choi examined the scar. It was perfectly healed with no signs of infection or poor healing. This is remarkable. Your body is repairing itself at an incredible rate. But the others could not do these things. Taiman continued. Their bodies tried to change but could not handle it. Jinho became too strong too fast. His heart could not pump blood through his new muscles. Su Bin's bones grew too thick and she could not move. What about your parents? Park Hyejin asked. Did the changes affect them too? A little bit. They became stronger and could survive the cold better. But they were already grown-ups, so the changes were smaller. Taiman's voice became very quiet. Dad said the changes were supposed to help us survive anywhere, but they only worked right for me. Lee felt a chill run down his spine. Taiman, who gave you these changes? Was it your parents? The boy shook, his head quickly. No, Mom and Dad hated the changes. They said someone made them do it, but they did not want to. They were supposed to test the changes on us kids, but when they saw what happened to the others, they tried to stop. Who made them do it? Kim Dae-ho asked. The people who sent us here. Dad called them the military commanders. He said they wanted to make super soldiers who could fight in any environment. Taiman looked directly at Captain Lee. But Mom and Dad said that was wrong. They said kids should not be weapons. Dr. Choi was scanning Taiman again. Captain, his cellular structure has been completely rewritten. This is not natural evolution. This is deliberate genetic manipulation using very advanced technology. The machine is still down there, Taiman said. In the underground lab. Dad tried to destroy it, but it was built too strong. He said maybe someday good people would come and finish what he started. Park Hyejin looked at her readings again. The energy signatures are definitely coming from some kind of advanced facility. And those life signs I detected, they are not human. What do you mean? Lee asked. The biological patterns are wrong. Too slow for humans, but too complex for simple animals. Taiman's expression became frightened. Those are the failed ones. The kids who changed wrong but did not die. They live in the deep tunnels now. Mom said they are not really alive anymore, but they are not dead either. The medical bay became very quiet. Lee looked at his crew, all of them processing the horrible implications of what they had discovered. Tae-min, Dr. Choi said softly. When your parents died, what did they tell you? Mom said that someday people would come looking for the lab. She said I should tell them the truth about what happened here. She said maybe then all the kids who died would not have died for nothing. Tae-min looked up at them with those two old eyes. She said if I told the truth, maybe she could finally stop crying. Lee stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, the gray moon looked peaceful and dead. But now he knew it was hiding one of the most terrible secrets in human history. We need to go down to that lab, he said finally. We need to see exactly what was done to these children. Captain, Kim Dae-ho warned. If this was a military project, there might be security protocols we do not know about. Maybe, Lee said. But we cannot leave without understanding the full truth. Those children deserve that much. Tae-min finished his soup and looked up at them. Will you really help Mom stop crying? Yes, Lee promised. We will make sure everyone knows what happened here. And we will make sure it never happens again. The underground facility was much larger than Captain Lee had expected. The entrance was hidden beneath the crashed ship's remains, sealed by a heavy metal door that had been partly destroyed. Kim Dae-ho used his cutting tools to make the opening, wide enough for them to enter. Stay close to me, Tae-min, Dr. Choi said as they descended into the tunnels. The boy had insisted on coming with them, claiming he knew the way through the dangerous areas. The safe path is this way, Tae-min said, leading them down a corridor lined with broken equipment. Dad showed me before he got too sick to walk. Emergency. Lighting still functioned in some sections, casting strange shadows on the walls. Park Hye-jin was recording everything with her scanner, documenting what they found. Look at this, she said, stopping beside a large machine built into the wall. This is genetic manipulation equipment. Very advanced, probably military grade. Lee examined the machine. It was covered with warning labels in multiple languages. Project Genesis, he read from a faded sign. Human Enhancement Protocol 7. That was Mom's project, Tae-min said quietly. She hated working on it, but they said she had to. They continued deeper into the facility. In one room, they found sleeping quarters for about 20 people. In another, they discovered a laboratory, with computers that still held data. Captain, you need to see this, Park Hye-jin called from one of the computers. She had managed to access some of the files. These are experiment records, and they are terrible. Lee read over her shoulder. The files detailed genetic experiments on human subjects, mostly children between ages 5 and 12. The goal was to create humans who could survive in any environment. Extreme cold, thin atmosphere, high radiation, even the vacuum of space. 43 test subjects, Park Hye-jin read aloud. 37 died during the initial enhancement process. 4 died during the adaptation phase. 1 subject showed severe mutations and had to be terminated. That leaves 1, Dr. Choi said, looking at Tae-min. Subject 43, the boy said. That was my number, but Mom and Dad always called me by my real name. Kim Dae-ho was exploring another part of the facility. His voice came through their communicators, tense with anger. Captain, you need to come see this room. Now. They followed his signal to a large chamber deeper underground. What they found there made Dr. Choi gasp in horror. The room contained dozens of small beds, each with medical equipment beside it. Most of the beds were empty, but some still held the remains of the children who had died during the experiments. Jin-ho slept there, Tae-min said, pointing to one bed. Soo-bin was over there. She always wanted to sleep near the window, but there were no windows down here. Lee felt sick. These were not the beds of patients being healed. These were the beds of victims being used for experiments. There are more files here, Park Hye-jin said from another computer terminal. Orders from someone called Admiral Sung-min Ho. He was in charge of the project. She read the orders aloud. Phase 7 trials approved. Use of juvenile subjects authorized for enhanced adaptation testing. Acceptable loss rate set at 85%. 85%, Dr. Choi repeated in horror. They expected most of the children to die. Mom cried when she read that order, Taemin said. She told Dad they had to find a way to stop the project, but the Admiral's soldiers were watching them all the time. Kim Dae-ho was examining more equipment. This is not just genetic manipulation. This is biological warfare research. They were trying to create super soldiers who could fight in any environment. But the project failed. Lee said, most of the subjects died. No, Taemin corrected him. The project succeeded. I am what they wanted to create, but Mom and Dad decided that was wrong. They tried to destroy all the research and escape with me. Park Hee-jin found more files. Here's the escape attempt. Dr. Yoon and Engineer Bae sabotaged the transport ship and crashed it on the moon's surface. They destroyed most of the genetic samples and research data. But they could not destroy everything, Taemin added. The main computer and the genetic database are in the deep tunnels. Dad said they were protected by security systems he could not break. Where are these deep tunnels? Lee asked. Taemin pointed to a sealed door at the far end of the chamber. Down there. But Captain, you should not go there. The failed ones live in those tunnels. The failed ones? Dr. Choi asked. The kids who changed wrong but did not die. Their bodies are different now. They cannot think clearly anymore, and they do not like visitors. Kim Dae-ho checked his weapon. How dangerous are they? Very dangerous. They are much stronger than normal people, but they are always angry and confused. Dad said their brains were damaged by the bad changes. Lee made a decision. We need to access that main computer. If the genetic database is still intact, the military might try to restart this project somewhere else. Captain, Dr. Choi warned, if there are dangerous mutated humans down there, we might not be able to handle them. I can talk to them, Taemin offered. They remember me from before they changed completely. Sometimes they listen to me. Absolutely not, Lee said firmly. You are just a child. We will not put you in danger. But I am not just a child, Taemin replied. I am what the experiments made me. I am stronger and faster than all of you, and I heal very quickly if I get hurt. Park Hye-jin was still reading files. Captain, there is something else. According to these records, the military is still looking for this facility. They sent search teams every few months. When was the last search? Kim Dae-ho asked. 3 months ago. The next one is scheduled for next week. Lee felt his heart sink. We need to work fast. If the military finds us here with Taemin, they will take him back to restart the project. They cannot have him, Doctor, Choi said fiercely. This child has suffered enough. Then we need to destroy everything, Lee decided. The computers, the genetic samples, all of it. We make sure this project can never be restarted. Taemin looked up at him with gratitude. Mom would like that. She always said the research should be destroyed so no more kids would have to suffer. They began preparing to descend into the deep tunnels. Kim Dae-ho distributed weapons and emergency medical supplies. Dr. Choi prepared sedatives in case they encountered the mutated survivors. Stay behind us at all times, Lee told Taemin. If we tell you to run, you run back to the ship and call for help. I will not leave you, Taemin said simply. You are trying to help Mom stop crying. I will not let anything happen to you. As they approached the sealed door, they could hear strange sounds from beyond it. Scratching, moaning, and what sounded like voices trying to speak but unable to form words properly. Those are Jin-ho and the others, Taemin said sadly. They are still trying to talk, but the changes made it hard for them to remember how. Lee placed his hand on the door controls. Everyone ready? They nodded, and he opened the door. Beyond was a tunnel that led down into darkness, and from that darkness came the sounds of the children, who had been changed into something that was no longer quite human. Mom, Taemin whispered as they began their descent. We are going to make it right. We are going to make sure no more kids have to become like me. The tunnel seemed to go down forever, and with each step, the sounds from below grew louder and more disturbing. But Lee knew they had no choice. They had to destroy the genetic database no matter what waited for them in the deep tunnels. The fate of every human child in the galaxy might depend on their success. The deep tunnels were worse than Captain Lee had imagined. The failed experiments moved through the darkness like broken shadows. their voices making sounds that were almost human, but not quite. Taemin walked ahead of the group, speaking softly, to the creatures that had once been his friends. "Jinho, it is me, Taemin," he said to a figure that moved on hands and knees. The thing that had been Jinho was twice the size of a normal child, with arms that were too long and eyes that reflected, light like an animal's. "Tae-min," the creature tried to say, its voice thick and strange. "Hurt. Always hurt." "I know," Taemin replied gently. "But we are going to make it stop hurting soon." They had found the main computer system at the bottom of the facility. It was a massive machine that still hummed with power, protected by security systems that Park Hyojin was trying to bypass. "Almost there," she said, her fingers flying over the control panel. "Just a few more minutes and I can access the genetic database." Suddenly, Kim Dae-ho's communicator crackled to life. "Captain, we have a problem. I am reading multiple ships approaching the moon, military vessels moving fast." Lee felt his stomach drop. "How many ships?" "At least 6. One of them is a command cruiser. They will be here in 20 minutes. Dr. Choi looked at Taemin with concern. "They are coming for him, are they not?" "Yes," Lee said grimly. "We need to finish this now." Park Hyojin worked faster. "I have access to the database. Captain, there are genetic templates for hundreds of potential test subjects. Children from across the galaxy, all selected for the enhancement program." "Download everything," Lee ordered. "We need evidence of what they planned to do." Above them, they could hear the sound of ships landing on the moon's surface. Heavy boots marched across the ground, heading toward the facility entrance. "They found us," Kim Dae-ho reported. "Full military squad, armed and ready." Taemin moved, closer to Captain Lee. "They cannot take me back. I will not let them hurt more children the way they hurt my friends." "We will not let that happen," Lee promised. The sound of cutting tools echoed through the tunnels as the military forces began breaking through the sealed entrance. They had maybe 10 minutes before the soldiers reached them. "Database downloaded," Park Hyojin announced. "But Captain, there is something else. The genetic enhancement process, it is not just about creating super soldiers. The military plans to use enhanced humans as weapons against alien species." "What do you mean?" Dr. Choi asked. "They want to create humans who can survive on any planet, in any environment. Then they want to use them to claim territory that belongs to other species. It is not defense. It is conquest." Taemin's eyes widened. Dad said the military leaders talked about expanding human territory. He said they wanted to take planets away from aliens who had lived there for thousands of years. Lee felt anger burning in his chest. "They are planning to use enhanced children as weapons of war and conquest." Heavy footsteps echoed through the upper tunnels. The military forces were inside the facility now. "Captain Lee Woo-jin," a voice, called down through the tunnels. It was amplified by speakers, cold and commanding. "This is Admiral Sung Min-ho. You are interfering with classified military operations. Surrender immediately." Lee recognized the name from the project files. This was the man who had ordered the experiments on children. "Admiral," Lee called back, "we have evidence of illegal genetic experiments on human children. We are placing you under arrest for crimes against humanity." The Admiral's laugh echoed through the tunnels. "Captain, you have no authority here. This is a military operation authorized by the highest levels of government. The boy you found is valuable military property." "I am not property," Taemin said loudly, his young voice carrying surprising strength. "I am a person. My name is Taemin, and I have rights. The enhanced subject will be returned to military custody for further development," the Admiral continued. "The genetic database will be secured for the continuation of Project Genesis." Park Hyojin was working on something at her computer. "Captain, I am uploading all the files to the Galactic Communication Network. Every news service, every government, every alien species will know what happened here." "Stop that immediately," the Admiral ordered. "That information is classified, not anymore," Park Hyojin replied and pressed the final key. Across the galaxy, the story of Project Genesis began spreading. News of genetic experiments on human children, of military plans to create super soldiers for conquest, of a boy who survived while his friends died in agony. Kim Dae-ho's voice came through the communicator. "Captain, they are sending soldiers down into the tunnels, armed and dangerous." The failed experiments in the tunnels became agitated, sensing the approaching threat. Their voices rose in a chorus of pain and anger. "Jin-ho is scared," Taemin said, looking at his mutated friend. "All of them are scared. They remember the soldiers who used to hurt them." Dr. Choi prepared her medical supplies. "Captain, we cannot fight a full military squad. There are too many of them." "We do not need to fight them," Taemin said quietly. "We just need to make sure the truth gets out." He walked to Park Hee-jin's computer and began typing with surprising speed. His enhanced mind processed information faster than any normal human. "What are you doing?" Lee asked. "I am sending my own message," Taemin replied. "I am telling everyone what really happened here. About Mom and Dad, about my friends who died, about the Admiral who ordered it all." On screens across the galaxy, people began receiving a video message from a small boy sitting in an underground facility. Taemin looked directly into the camera and spoke with a maturity that shocked everyone who saw it. "My name is Taemin. I am 8 years old. 3 years ago, military scientists changed my body to make me stronger. They did the same thing to my friends, but my friends died. They died because Admiral Sung Min-ho ordered experiments on children." The sound of boots was getting closer. "The military wants to take me back and use me to hurt other people. They want to make more children like me and use us as weapons. But I do not want to be a weapon. I want to be a person." Taemin's message was being broadcast to every inhabited planet in known space. Alien species who had never paid much attention to human affairs were suddenly very interested. "Mom used to cry because she could not save my friends. Dad died trying to protect me from the people who made me this way. If you are watching this, please do not let them make more children suffer like we did." The first military soldiers appeared at the entrance to the chamber. They wore full combat armor and carried weapons designed to capture rather than kill. "Subject 43, you will come with us immediately," the lead soldier ordered. Taemin stood up and looked at the soldier. "My name is Taemin, and I am not going anywhere with you." The failed experiments in the tunnels began moving toward the soldiers, their enhanced bodies ready to protect the one child who had shown them kindness. "Captain," Admiral Sung's voice echoed through the facility. "You have 10 seconds to surrender the boy, or we will take him by force." Lee looked at his crew, at Taemin, at the mutated children who had once been normal kids with normal dreams. He thought about the message that was now spreading across the galaxy, about the choice that would define humanity's future. "Admiral," he called back, "the galaxy is watching. The choice you make here will be remembered forever." The soldiers raised their weapons, and in that moment, humanity's fate hung in the balance. The standoff in the underground chamber lasted only moments, but it felt like hours. Admiral Sung's soldiers had their weapons aimed at Captain Lee and his crew, while the failed experiments moved protectively around Taemin. Then something unexpected happened. Park Hee-jin's communication device began receiving messages from across the galaxy. "Captain," she said with amazement, "we are getting responses to Taemin's broadcast, hundreds of them." The first message was from the Altarian Collective, a peaceful alien species known for their wisdom. Their representatives spoke in careful translated words. "The child called Taemin has asked for protection from those who would use him as a weapon. The Altarian Collective offers sanctuary to any human who chooses peace over conquest." More messages followed. The Vegan Trade Federation announced they were sending ships to protect the boy. The Centauri Council declared that any human military vessel attempting to restart genetic experiments on children would be considered an enemy of all civilized species. Admiral Sung's voice came through the speakers, but now it sounded less confident. "These alien responses are irrelevant. This is an internal human matter." "No, Admiral," came a new voice through the communication system. "This is a matter that concerns all thinking beings in the galaxy." The voice belonged to Chancellor Wei Lina, the elected leader of the Terran colonial government. Her image appeared on Park Hye-jin's screen, broadcasting from the capital world of New Terra. Admiral Sung, the Chancellor continued, by order of the Colonial Council, you are relieved of command. Project Genesis is hereby terminated, and you are under arrest for violations of human rights and war crimes. You have no authority over military operations, the Admiral protested. I have the authority given to me by the people of the Terran colonies, and those people have made their choice clear. Park Hye-jin was monitoring news feeds from across human space. Captain, there are protests on every human world. People are demanding that Project Genesis be shut down permanently. The Chancellor's message continued. The boy called Taimin will be placed under the protection of the Colonial Council, not as a weapon or an experiment, but as a citizen with full rights. Any attempt to harm him or continue genetic experiments on children will be considered treason. Admiral Sung's soldiers were receiving new orders through their communicators. One by one, they lowered their weapons. This is not over. The Admiral's voice echoed through the facility. Humanity needs enhanced soldiers to survive in a hostile galaxy. Taimin stepped forward, his young voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Admiral Sung, you are wrong. Humanity does not need to be changed to survive. Humanity needs to choose to be good. He walked toward the soldiers, showing no fear despite their weapons and armor. My friends died because you thought making us stronger was more important than keeping us human. But being human is not about being strong. It is about caring for each other. Dr. Choi moved protectively beside Taimin, but the boy gently touched her hand. It is okay, Dr. Choi. They cannot hurt me anymore. The whole galaxy is watching now. And indeed, the galaxy was watching. Taimin's message had been received by millions of beings across hundreds of worlds. For the first time in history, alien species were seeing humans not as potential conquerors, but as people capable of protecting their own children from their own government. Kim Dae-ho reported that more ships were arriving at the moon. Captain, I count 12 vessels now. 3 are human colonial council ships and the rest are alien. They all seem to be here to protect the boy. The lead soldier finally spoke. Admiral, we are receiving orders to stand down. The Colonial Council has authority in this situation. Admiral Sung's voice was filled with anger. You are making a mistake. Enhanced humans are the future of our species. No, Taimin said firmly. Choosing to be good is the future of our species. Captain Lee felt a surge of pride as he watched the small boy face down the military commander who had ordered such terrible experiments. This child, who had suffered more than any person should have to suffer, was teaching the entire galaxy about courage and humanity. Admiral, Lee called out, your soldiers are standing down. You have lost. Over the next several hours, the situation was resolved peacefully. Admiral Sung was arrested by Colonial Council forces. The genetic database was secured and destroyed under the supervision of representatives from multiple alien species. The failed experiments in the deep tunnels were given medical care by the best doctors in the galaxy. Most importantly, Taimin was declared a free citizen of the Terran colonies, with the right to choose his own future. 6 months later, Captain Lee stood in the memorial garden on New Sol Colony. Taimin had chosen to live with Lee and his family, and the boy was slowly learning what it meant to be a normal child. The memorial garden contained a wall with the names of all the children who had died in Project Genesis experiments. Taimin visited the wall every week, bringing flowers and speaking quietly to his friends who were no longer there. Do you think Mom has stopped crying now? Taimin asked as he placed fresh flowers beneath Jinho's name. Lee knelt beside the boy. I think she has. The whole galaxy knows what happened here, and they have promised it will never happen again. It was true. The revelation of Project Genesis had changed how alien species viewed humanity. Instead of seeing humans as a potential threat, they saw them as people who would sacrifice everything to protect their children. Several alien species had even invited human colonies to settle on their worlds, impressed by humanity's moral courage. Captain Lee, Taimin said, I have been thinking about something. What is that? I am still different from other humans. I am still stronger and faster and heal quicker. Should I be sad about that? Lee thought carefully before answering. Being different is not bad, Taemin. What matters is how you choose to use your differences. Taemin nodded. I want to use them to help people. Maybe I can be like you, exploring new worlds and helping anyone who needs it. When you are older, if that is what you choose, I would be honored to have you on my crew. They sat quietly for a while, watching the sunset over New Sol Colony. In the distance, children played in the parks, safe and free and completely human. Captain, Taemin said finally, do you think Dad would be proud of what we did? I think both your parents would be very proud. You chose to be human when it would have been easier to be a weapon. You chose to protect other children even though it put you in danger. That is what being human really means. Taemin smiled. The first truly happy smile Lee had seen from him. Then I am glad I am human. As they walked home together, Lee reflected on how much had changed. Project Genesis was gone forever. Admiral Sung was in prison. And most importantly, a small boy who had lost everything had found a new family and a new hope. The galaxy had learned something important about humanity that day. They had learned that humans were not perfect, but when faced with a choice between power and compassion, they could choose compassion. When faced with a choice between conquest and protection, they could choose protection. And sometimes that choice could change the entire galaxy for the better. Taemin took Lee's hand as they walked, and in that simple gesture was all the proof. Anyone needed that humanity's greatest strength was not in their enhanced soldiers or advanced weapons. Humanity's greatest strength was in their capacity to love and protect their children, no matter the cost. On a forgotten moon, a mother had finally stopped crying.